Isaac's clock tower experiment wasn't just an experiment gone wrong. It was love twisted into obsession, the spark that scarred 3 generations. A machine built to cure what some called a curse ended in fire, death, and loss, and its consequences are still felt decades later. Let's talk about what Isaac actually built 30 years ago. This wasn't some random mad scientist moment. The machine had a very specific purpose: steal electricity from one outcast and transform it into a cure for the Hyde curse. And when I say steal, I mean literally rip it out of their body. They're wired into your nervous system. The same current that used to flow through Gomez's veins now runs through Pugsley. It's like having lightning for blood. Isaac thought he could just take that, channel all that raw electrical energy and use it to rewrite his sister's DNA, burn the Hyde curse right out of her bloodstream. But here's what made Isaac so dangerous. The guy wasn't just smart, he was desperate. Born with a failing heart, he literally built himself a mechanical replacement. By the time he got to Nevermore, people were already whispering about him being one of the sharpest minds to ever walk those halls. The experiment itself was brutal. Gomez strapped to this machine, his electrical gift being drained away drop by drop, and all that stolen power getting pumped into Francoise. Isaac was basically trying to electrocute the Hyde out of her system. But here's what Isaac never stopped to consider: consent. He didn't ask Gomez if he wanted to give up his power. He tricked him, led him up to that tower under false pretenses, and was about to rob him of his abilities forever. When Morticia burst in and chopped off Isaac's hand to stop the machine, everything went to hell. All that electricity had nowhere to go, the tower caught fire, Isaac was burned alive, and the backlash left Gomez permanently powerless. 3 lives completely destroyed, because Isaac couldn't accept the hardest truth of all. Maybe his sister didn't want to be cured. And you know what's haunting? After they buried him under the skull tree, students swore they could still hear his mechanical heart ticking if they pressed their ear to the hollow, like even death couldn't stop his obsession. To really understand why Isaac built that machine, you have to understand the bond between him and Francoise. Isaac wasn't just her brother, he was her protector. And in his mind, being a Hyde wasn't just dangerous, it was a death sentence waiting to happen. Hydes lived shorter lives. They were unpredictable, violent, and everyone feared them. To Isaac, watching Francoise struggle with her transformations was like watching her die in slow motion. She was actually doing okay, learning to manage her condition, finding her place at Nevermore despite all the stigma. Isaac only saw the monster. Where she saw a part of herself she was learning to accept, he saw a disease that needed to be cut out. And this obsession, it didn't come from nowhere. Remember, Isaac grew up fragile. That failing heart almost killed him as a child. But he fixed it himself with machinery. That experience rewired his whole worldview. To Isaac, every problem had a mechanical solution, no matter how brutal. That's the real tragedy here. The clock tower machine was never about science, it was about control. Isaac decided what was best for Francoise, and he was willing to do anything for her, risk his friends' lives and even die himself, all to force a cure on someone who was learning to live with who she was. Now here's where things get really wild. When Morticia chopped off Isaac's hand to stop that experiment, she didn't just save Gomez, she accidentally created Thing. I did a whole deep dive on Thing's origin story, definitely check that out, link in the description. But the connection to the clock tower is everything. Think about this. Thing isn't just Isaac's severed hand. He's literally the part of Isaac that chose differently. That hand was part of the machine, moving with Isaac's will, about to strip Gomez of his power forever. But once it was severed, cut free from Isaac's body and his obsession, something unexpected happened. It gained a consciousness of its own. Thing became everything Isaac never was, a protector instead of a predator. Where Isaac saw people as problems to fix, Thing chose to stand by them exactly as they were. Family, not experiments. The explosion that killed Isaac also gave birth to this new life. Isaac's experiment didn't happen in a vacuum. He had a research partner, Dr. Augustus Stonehurst. He was the one who gave Isaac access to that clock tower lab at Nevermore. But while Isaac was driven by desperate love for his sister, Stonehurst had a completely different agenda. To him, outcast powers weren't gifts. They were resources waiting to be harvested. The partnership fell apart because they wanted different things. Isaac wanted to cure his sister's Hyde curse. Stonehurst, he wanted to cure himself, transform from a powerless normie into something extraordinary. When that tower exploded and Isaac died, Stonehurst didn't mourn a friend. He saw opportunity. He took Isaac's research and twisted it into something even darker, the foundation of what would become Project Lois. Where Isaac's machine was meant to strip a curse from someone he loved, Stonehurst refined it into a system for stealing and transferring abilities on an industrial scale. What started as one brother's desperate attempt to save his sister became the blueprint for institutional exploitation of outcasts. And when Judy Stonehurst inherited her father's work, she carried it further. Willow Hill became her hunting ground. Behind its walls, hidden rooms were converted into laboratories, where outcasts were locked away for years, forgotten by the world, and used as test subjects. No accidents, no explosions, just slow, methodical suffering disguised as treatment. Isaac wanted to save one life. The Stonehursts built an empire on destroying hundreds. Fast forward 30 years. Isaac Knight didn't stay buried. That mechanical heart, the same one that saved his life, kept ticking even after the tower burned down around him. Buried under the skull tree, students kept hearing that rhythmic ticking, thinking it was just a creepy legend. Then, Pugsley Addams proved the legend was real. A spark of his electrical power brought Isaac back from the dead as Slurp, this feral brain-eating creature who had to consume memories just to think straight. But with every kill, with every mind he devoured, his intelligence returned, and so did his obsession. The obsession hadn't changed one bit. He rebuilt that clock tower machine, but this version was way more sophisticated. It wasn't just limited to electrical powers anymore. This thing could handle multiple abilities simultaneously. Isaac targeted Pugsley for the same gift he'd once stolen from Gomez, and he set his sights on Tyler, planning to rip the Hyde curse right out of his DNA. It was a two-pronged attack. Use the next generation to finally cure his sister once and for all. But when the moment came, Francoise made her choice crystal clear. She wanted Tyler to take the cure, to live the free life she never had. But Tyler, he said no. He embraced the Hyde as part of who he was, rejecting the very salvation his uncle had spent decades obsessing over. That refusal broke everything. Mother and son transformed and fought, tearing through Nevermore until Francoise was hanging from the rooftop's edge. And instead of letting this cycle continue through another generation, she made the ultimate choice. She let go. Her fall wasn't an accident. It was her final verdict on the Galpin bloodline. Isaac's machine wasn't just metal and wires. It was a philosophical question hammered into steel. Who gets to decide what a life should look like? To Isaac, the Hyde curse was a disease, something to be burned out of the bloodstream like a manufacturing defect. To Francoise, it was part of her identity. Difficult, dangerous, but still hers to manage. And to Tyler, it was raw power he refused to apologize for. Three people, three completely different ways of seeing the same inheritance. The clock tower device wasn't deadly because of its electrical output. It was deadly because it reduced human beings to problems that needed fixing. A sister became a patient. A curse became something to erase. A soul got rewritten without permission. That's how Isaac's personal tragedy connects to something much bigger. His love was genuine, but his refusal to see Francoise as complete the way she was turned devotion into violence. It's the same twisted logic Stonehurst later weaponized, treating lives like fuel, identities like raw materials, difference like a resource to be exploited. The real horror isn't that the experiment failed, it's that in its own sick way it worked perfectly, stripping away humanity until nothing remained but obsession, industry, and loss. Isaac's clock tower experiment didn't die in those flames. Its impact rippled through the Wednesday universe for decades. When Gomez lost his electrical gift, it never made it to Wednesday. The current skipped her completely and only flowed into Pugsley, a shift that might have pushed her toward visions instead of lightning. One night changed the entire Addams family tree. From Isaac's severed hand came the most unexpected gift, thing, a piece of obsession that, once freed, became the family's moral center. Living proof that, even from destruction, something pure can emerge. Francoise's story became the deepest scar of all. Hidden away, erased from official records, and finally forced to battle her own son, she chose how her story ended. Her fall wasn't just death, it was defiance. The Galpin curse stops with her, and Isaac's research, originally meant to save one life, outlived its creator. Twisted into Project Lois, it became the engine driving institutionalized horror, feeding on outcasts the system had already declared dead. One failed experiment became the template for everything that followed. A brother's obsession transformed into an institution's weapon, a single choice that scarred families, rewired bloodlines, and left behind both heroes and ruins. Isaac's experiment reveals something crucial about the Wednesday series. The deadliest threats don't always come from outside. They grow from within the community itself. This isn't just a world where outcasts face persecution from ignorant normies. It's a world where obsession, envy, and ambition inside the outcast community become the sharpest weapons. Isaac was an outcast who turned on his own people. Stonehurst was a normie who wanted to steal their essence. Judy was artificially created and weaponized her very existence. Together, they show us a pattern. The danger is systemic, woven into the fabric of how these communities relate to each other. Isaac's clock tower experiment stands as one of the most heartbreaking tragedies in the Wednesday universe. It started with a brother trying to save his sister and ended with obsession, loss, and a curse that refused to die quietly. The machine never cured anything. It stole Gomez's gift, destroyed Francoise's life, and dragged Isaac beyond the boundaries of his own humanity. But that hand severed in the chaos? It chose a different path entirely. Thing became everything Isaac never was, a true guardian. Living proof that sometimes the smallest fragment can carry the greatest truth. And speaking of Thing, I've got that complete breakdown of his origin story, diving into how a severed hand became a hero. Check it out in the description. So, what's your take? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm Raphael CG, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.